I am going to start a new series for junior cycle history students where I run through an exam question or a sample exam question and analyse it with you just to help you better understand how marks are allocated, where marks are going, so that you have the best chance of maximising the number of marks available in your junior cycle history exam. So we're starting off with this question that appeared in the 2022 Junior Cycle History exam. First thing to note is there are no marks written on the exam paper itself. So these little marks are just ones that I have written in kind of afterwards. Right, first things first, if we look at question A, B, C, and then over here D, the answers to all of these questions can be found in the sources available. So it's really important that you take your time with these kind of comprehension or source analysis style questions so that you don't kind of miss out on valuable marks, all right? So first question, it says, where in Ireland is Doon Point located? And our answer is up here in County Kerry. Up next, when did the dig take place? So what's incredibly important here with this question is you give the full dates. That's May to June of 2021, okay? Question C, what was the role of Sandra Henry at the dig? Again here, it's incredibly important that you say lead archaeologist to get your full 3 marks for that. If you only said archaeologist, you were only going to get 1 of the 3 marks, okay? Over here, it says, what evidence from the photograph and report shows the impact of climate change in Doon Point? So you need to make sure that you give me evidence from the photograph and evidence from the report, because there was 3 marks for evidence from the photograph and then 3 marks for evidence from the report. So we just say from the photograph, there was debris and fallen rock, and that can be seen at the bottom left-hand corner of the photograph. And then for our report, there's loads of different examples that you could give. I gave kind of 2 examples because that's what I could fit in the space available. So the report says all are at risk of coastal erosion, and these places are under increasing risk of erosion, cliff collapse, and so on, okay? So up next, question E. This is the first question in this larger question where you're being asked to draw on the knowledge, the information that you would have learned in history class. So it says the photograph was taken using a drone. Explain why drone technology is a useful tool for archaeologists, okay? These exam tips are just ones that I have put in. You're not going to see them there on the kind of actual day. But again, I've tried to fill the writing space available to make sure I get all 3 of these marks. So it says drones can be used to generate a 3D model of the site. They can also give archaeologists an aerial view of the site below, which could help to spot things like crop patterns. All right. You may have come across different answers in history class, and that's absolutely fine. Right, over here. If we go on to question F, so it says name 2 other tools that archaeologists use and briefly explain how they are used. So again, make sure you name your 2 other tools, okay? You could give me the single best kind of description of one tool that I have ever seen, and you will only get like a maximum of half marks, okay? Because you've been asked to talk about 2 other tools. All right. I find it really helpful when doing questions like this to put in kind of little headings or reminders. So for example, here for tool 1, I put sieves, and that will get you 2 marks. Okay. And then here's my explanation. So it says sieves are used to find small objects or artifacts by removing the surrounding soil. There was a maximum of 3 marks going for that. And that 3 marks was a sliding scale. So if my answer was very good, I got 3 marks. If it was good, I got 2 marks. If it was weak, I got 1 mark. If it was incorrect or I wrote nothing, I got 0 marks. Okay? Sliding scales can be a little bit confusing, but they don't need to be. Basically, to ensure that you receive the maximum number of marks available with any answer, but especially with things like these sliding scales, make sure that your answer has a fact or an example or a definition or an explanation or a statistic or a keyword, okay? So for example, if we go back up here, we've said the word artifacts, that would be a keyword. And we have an explanation here, so removing the surrounding soil, okay? If your answers are kind of vague or wishy-washy or something that, is maybe kind of general knowledge, not necessarily something that you would have learned from your study of history, okay, you're unlikely to get your full kind of 3 marks for sliding scale questions like this, all right? So then tool 2, I've said brushes, so I've got 2 marks for saying brushes. And then here's my explanation. Brushes are used to clear around objects carefully and delicately. And here's my explanation, okay? So that's what would get me kind of higher up on the sliding scale, all right? And then that was a maximum of 10 marks for the whole question, okay? Worst case scenario, you can't maybe explain 2 tools. Even if you name your 2 tools, so I say sieves, I say brushes, I'm getting 4 out of 10, okay? I'm not getting 10 out of 10, but I'm getting something for it. Okay, let's go on to our next question. So question G. Pick a topic from your junior cycle history course that you can link to archaeology. And they gave you some examples to choose from here. And then it says, how did archaeological evidence help you learn about 3 different aspects of that topic? Okay, there are a lot of words here. There's a lot of text here. Break it down into little bits, okay? Because the marking scheme is broken down into little bits, all right? So first thing, it says, pick a topic from your junior cycle history course that you can link to archaeology. That's the first part of the question you need to address. So the topic that I have picked is ancient Rome, okay? Then it says, how archaeological evidence help you learn about this topic, all right? And we know from up here I need 3. So number 1, Pompeii. Pompeii was frozen in time because of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. This means we can see how Romans lived then. Frescoes, mosaics, paved streets, and thermopolium have all been excavated. All right, let's have a little look at the marking. So for ancient Rome, I got 2 marks, okay? For naming my archaeological evidence, I got 3 marks, all right? And then for my explanation, I got another maximum of 3 marks. And again, our explanation was on a sliding scale, okay? So again, 3, 2, or 1 to ensure you're getting kind of full marks or more marks for your sliding scale answers. Make sure you have your fact or example or definition or explanation or statistic or keyword. So again, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, that's a fact. Our date, 79 AD, that's a statistic. Keywords would include things like frescoes, mosaics, thermopolium, all right? Right, my next example is the Colosseum, okay? That's going to get me another 3 marks, all right? And then if we go over here to look at the explanation, so I've said that the Colosseum is an example of a Roman amphitheatre. I said that excavations here have taught us about Roman entertainment, like gladiator fighting and how naval battles were reenacted, all right? So again, this part is our sliding scale. So I have amphitheatre, it's a keyword that's going to get me lots of marks. Gladiator fighting, that's a keyword that's going to get me lots of marks. Naval battles were reenacted, that's a fact that's going to get me marks, okay? My final example is the catacombs. That's getting me 3 marks. And it says these were underground passageways used for burials and by Christians hoping to avoid persecution. The study of catacombs like those in Paris tells us about religion in ancient Rome. So again, underground passageways is an explanation. That's going to help improve my grade. What they were used for, again, that's our explanation improving my grade. Example of the catacombs in Paris, that's again an example. It's going to help improve my overall grade and make sure I get as many of these marks as possible, okay? So from the question as a whole, 15 of the marks going for this question, the answers were in the sources, okay? So take your time, read the questions and study the sources carefully and pick up as many marks as you can, all right? 33 marks in this question were for knowledge or kind of content that you would have studied in history class. But within those 33 marks, many could be picked up from straightforward answers like naming tools or naming our ancient civilization over here, okay? The sliding scales also gave you an opportunity to pick up marks because we'll say, okay, I've mentioned the catacombs. Maybe I can't explain how the catacombs have taught us about ancient Rome particularly well. But as long as I say something that's relevant and correct, I might be able to pick up, 1 of these 3 marks or 2 of these 3 marks.